Just drink lots of coffee. You'll be fine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ratings on the Monday, the 20th of May, 2024. We are here with Pommy. It is the end of round 10. We are moving into round 11, but we can't move on from round 10 until we do the ratings. So that is what we're going to do. Pommy, hello and welcome, mate. Good to have you here.
Well, I mean, it's fitting. You lose by plus 40. There's a thing at Blue Abroad. It's this big red cross button, and you smash it, and Pom comes out. I'm like this. So I'm here. I'm ready. Hey, we're going to try and have a bit of fun. We're going to try and unpack it. And instead of tearing strips off the club, let's try and work out a way to get ourselves back to the feel-good highs, because that's what I enjoy. I like the highs.
Yeah.
Terry already looks depressed. He's doing the V. Look, chat, when he does this, fucking game over. Panic stations.
We are now. Look, I've got a new catchy word for the week. Equanimity. So our ability to stay calm and composed when things are difficult, and I think a little bit of that is needed. So, this is not going to be a very good. I haven't seen the ratings. I haven't looked at them at the heat maps, but I just it's not looking good, fam, for some of these players tonight, which is a shame. I mean, they let themselves down and they let everyone down. So
I think the way that I want you all to approach this, right, is shelve emotive words, shelve game over, ban the injury word, right? And the reason is let's put ourselves in the driving seat to fix this. Say we're it. So you're not going to go down to the club tomorrow if you were Michael Voss and go, fucking hell, we got injuries, because that ain't going to resurrect the players, right?
Yeah.
You can't. So we're going to look at ways to try and get this right, because these ratings here, leading into what I'm going to show you in the Monday show, literally open the avenue of how you fix it. Redemption is there.
Yep. So that's that. If you're new to the ratings, welcome. We are proudly brought to you by Horizon Finance Group. I think Nick might be in the live chat. So
the hot dog is there. I've seen him.
Dog is there. He's up and about. He was there. So we're going to get through the ratings. We basically go through every player, look at their heat maps, look at their key metrics, the key stats that make up their role, and we spit out the algorithm, I should say, spits out a number which is conducive to each player compared to every player in the competition in their position. So, hey Nick, here he is. Say good day. There we go. All right, we've got 90 minutes because we have a BA show to do at 7 p.m. So let's start as we usually do. Let's move this along.
Let us begin.
Let us begin. Where are we? There we go.
You don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you're doing. All right. Jacob Weering. We get Jacob for not much of the game. It's hard to assess him, isn't it?
It was. I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting how Carlton set up. I didn't like the 4 tolls down the back. It was obvious that the plan was to intercept. And I said it in my preview. Teams fall into a trap with Sydney. They see their toes up forward and they try and match it. And genuinely, when you match it, you get battered, right? And Weering, I wouldn't say Weering when he was on the ground was the difference between winning and losing, because I think you really did see before he got hurt and after he got hurt how effective they are at getting in. But he did what he needed to do. Do you know what I mean? You can see here, Carlton deployed him in the danger zone. Yeah. And to be fair, if you're going to choose a week off, this was probably the week to have a half day, to be fair, because I think Weering would have probably, if there is such thing as PTSD from being at Carlton in 2018, that second half, I haven't seen so many rebound 50s since the great Nick Larkey kicked 12 on him or whatever it was. So he might have had flashbacks from that. So it's probably done his mental health the world of good not to be involved in that second half.
Yeah. He got a 5 for his. What's the minus for? 5.
Okay, so my legend, that is Bussy Boy. See, I always listen. That means it's scaled.
Okay. So 5 is scaled. You know, I knew something was up when his first contest he fumbled a regulation mark. I think Mitch will get to shortly. He did it as well. But yeah, a tough one to grade nonetheless. Brody Kemp, I think one of the shining lights of the night. And there weren't many, but I thought he was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game that when we were doing the prep for this game, he really stood out because these are the type of guys that do have success against this side. And look at the kilometers ran. That's really important, that, right? Because the way that you beat this side, Sydney, and it's very hard because statistically they're probably the best side in the league by a long way at the moment. They don't have many chinks in the old armour, is when teams have tried to push them back with foot speed, and then being bold because you know they're going to go for deep entries and spoil to meet them in their furnace, which is roughly where his heat map is. If you look at their heat maps, a lot of touches here. And he took the game on, leading the team in intercept marks, leading the team in spoils, which is really important, was effective with the touches as well, and looked to make something happen. He did try and make something happen, and he's probably one of the few players that will come off the ground this week and say, there wasn't really much I could fucking do. Like if he watches the tape again, you're going to be really hard to pick on him because he did everything. Interesting, offense was quite down for Kemp, and I wanted to note this. Vossi seems to sacrifice this guy more than anyone else in the back line. And genuinely, the argument from most people and the pundits is he doesn't defend. He's just offensive. He's actually proving he's worked incredibly hard on his defensive craft. And see the VFL report that I did? Him in the VFL versus Marchbank, poles apart because Kemp looked like he was working on something and nailed it. Marchbank, the week he played VFL, looked like he was just trying to get back in the seniors. So really interesting that we're starting to see the fruits of his labour from Kemp. Really good game. I really enjoyed it.
That's interesting to see because I my assumption when Marchie was named in the side was that it would allow Kemp to express himself a little bit more offensively. But why do you think that was the case?
Well, I mean, one, the gaps between the midfield line and the back line, I don't think I've seen so shallow in my life, which was really hard for him. But that doesn't help. Like the defense cops a lot of hate, but there's a reason midfielders literally win the Brownlow all the time because midfield is the most important area of the ground. So I felt for him, but I really want to point his defense in 12 months. Insane. His ability to peel off, his ability to play the spoil, his ability to take the intercept mark, play below his feet. I would say over 12 months, he'd be close to our most improved player, I think, rounded wise. Yeah.
So he gets a 6.5. We're going to move on to Mitch McGovern. This is a little bit more of a healthier map. Another one that was uncharacteristically fumbly early in the piece in particular. Fumbled a few marks, probably 2 or 3 in the first quarter. Was probably a sign of the team, not just Mitch. But I did think overall he was... I don't know. He was okay.
The problem is when you spill your marks against this side, you are looking at probably the number 1 ground ball defense and attacking side in the league versus, in my opinion, Carlton's ground ball game. It's like asking an eagle to dig a hole. You know what I mean? And when he spilled them marks, it puts you under a lot of cosh. So really, we needed that intercept number to be blue. But I will give him his dues, albeit he did try and get us going. He was one of the few players that kicks took the first line of defence. He's one of the few players as well that when there was natural one-on-ones, he won his battle, proving how good he is. Issue is, when he's playing, he was there to do a job, which was to counterpunch. And aside from the handoff kicking the goal. I didn't really see that from Gov. And this will be one of them games again where we see the full ratings. Key pillar, this is a guy we need in blue. If this guy's in blue, we're having a laugh. If he's not, we need someone else in blue. And we haven't had it as of yet.
It's definitely a barometer for the side. When he's playing his best footy, we're a much better side.
Amen.
So he gets a 6 in yellow. As we move over to Jordan Boyd. Wow, didn't he have a start to this game? I find we rely on him more when we're away than when we're at home for some reason.
Yeah, and this was a really interesting one because you see Gov, you see Boyd, and they felt a little bit safe at times, particularly when Weering went off, and that's all well and good. That's natural. Do you know what I mean? He's our best defender, but this guy has got, God has given him, if there is such thing as a God, he has given him the grace of a beautiful kick.
Yep.
And for me, when he's doing little short sideways kicks, that's a total waste of what he's got. I want to see this guy with the ball in his hands. And it's really interesting since Saad has left this team. You look at the makeup and you go, right, we want someone to break lines who's quick. So Cincotta, pound for pound, is quicker than him. Hasn't been used. The job went to Nick Newman. And then you think, right, okay, well, that person's getting the ball 20 times. Has Nick Newman got the elite kick or the line-breaking seed? Probably hasn't, right? And that's all due respect to Nick Newman, great footballer. This is the one that just, I feel like we've missed a trick over 4 weeks without Saad. Love to have seen this guy be the guy who is in charge of getting the ball out because his kick is sensational. And you know what? What I love about him, real good numbers across all avenues of defence.
Yep.
Oh, look, defensive half pressure acts. He's willing to make the shepherd to clear a runner out of the way. Real hard-working player. And it's a real understated role. Really understated role.
The passage of play, which ended in Harry McKay missing in that from the top of the goal square, a lot of the focus will be on Harry for missing and whatever. But the initial kick to set that up was a bullet from Jordan Boyd from halfback into Zack Williams, sort of back left corner of the square. And I think Jordan Boyd might be one of the only players that can make that kick in the side. And that's what kind of got me confused because early in the game that they were taking on that kick, they were executing that kick, and then it completely fell away after that. So it's hard. It's hard when you're trying to look for signs in a game early on and think, okay, have you established yourselves in a game, particularly away, which I thought we did. And then for that confidence to completely zip away.
You see, I think Shane nails it. You'd like to see Boyd up on the wing. I don't think he's got the engine to run the wing, but I think you could manufacture it. And we're going to come on to 2 players that allowed a positional shift this week in a minute. I would love to see Boyd maybe get the trial role we gave Zack Williams. Because one thing about Boyd, just notice some of the kicks as well. When he doesn't kick to a target, he kicks to open field.
Yes.
He weights the ball perfectly, always into the advantage of the player. So that kick you talk about, he always kicks out in front, gives you something to run onto. He's got an uncanny ability to understand how people play. And I want to see him with the ball in his hands. For me, playing him in a position where the max he's going to get 13 touches is absolutely counterintuitive. It's almost as balmy to me of chasing the game and playing Harry McKay and Charlie Curnow centre half back. Oh, that happened.
Well, Boydie gets a 6 for his game. As we go on to Cincotta, spoke with yourself throughout the week after 2 really good games. I think no matter what with Alex Cincotta, he keeps his opponent honest. This was just a tough game.
He does, and pretty much that's his output this week. Now, this is where sometimes output can be deceiving, and this is what I like to pride myself on. When I give you the numbers, I give you the context. Because if you looked at this game just numerically, you'd be like, absolutely bobbins, right? And fair enough. Fair enough. He played a pure defensive role. So all of his numbers here are basically negated against the algorithm of Tom Papley. So Tom Papley has had some games where the last game he had, where it was this easy inside 50, was Essendon, where I believe he finished with 22 and 4 goals. So put that in perspective. Did you notice Papley that much compared to that Essendon game? Probably not. But again, you see, this is it here. We played him in that high aggressive role, and all he had to do was just defend, really. And we didn't look to use him. There's a few great cases. If you go to the third quarter when Carlton started to get really peppered, this guy's peeled away in the back pocket. And we didn't look to kick to him. And there's some issues there. And I don't know if that's Weering there not dictating, because it doesn't really happen when Weitering's there, to be honest. But we've got to find a way of utilising these players, because it becomes one-dimensional. And you saw Sydney started to actually set up on the wing before Carlton did. There was a few times that they already set their traps. And it's almost like Sydney had worked out our exit out of B50 quicker than Carlton did. So it's definitely something that they'll watch the tape and go, we've got to find other avenues.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an example which we might talk about on the BA show later. Just the trust. Sometimes it can go into their shells, and that trust and connection that it's been such a hallmark for them. Like, you trust everyone that's on the field, and that starts to dip away. So I don't know. A 3.5 for Alex Cincotta. We go to Nick Newman. This was the player of the game for me on the night. He was, I mean, he can probably look back on this game and say, yeah, gave it my all.
My dear late Pop used to say to me sometimes when I used to go, Pop, how come I get the shit jobs? And he used to go, aces in their places, son. And it used to really annoy me, because I was like, call me a twat without calling me a twat, Pop. But sometimes I look, and I'm not wanting to take away how good his game was, because his game was good, right? His game was good, right? But 32 touches at 88%, if you gave Sard them numbers, it's insane. So this is where I question where Carlton using Nick Newman in this position, because these numbers are sensational. 668 metres gained, best in the team. 13.5 to pressure acts. We know he can defend, and ground balls, really key to this game. Also the intercept possessions. If everyone did what he did, brilliant. And Petra nails it. This guy is just 7 out of 10 every game, regardless of position. So this is why it makes me sometimes question, far be it from me to question elite level coaches, but I'm going to do it anyway, why you would have someone who is so strong defensively, but playing this role when there's probably players that are going to, I think you could play Nick Newman in Cincotta's position and he'll get 18 touches, 19 touches, because he's got such a good understanding of the game, where Cincotta's still a baby in AFL terms. And get him kicking into open space. It's an interesting one, because his game was brilliant. But for me, this game showcases how good Nick Newman is, how much better his floor is compared to everyone else. Because when he's bad, he's still better than 90%. But play to his strengths. Play to his strengths. And I feel here, this is Sard's role. So we know next week, if I was a betting man, I would I'd bet $1 million that the change next week is Cincotta out, Sard in. Newman goes to Cincotta's position, Sard goes to this position, right? And it's written all in the stars. And that, for me, is a disservice to Alex Cincotta, who's killed Bobby Hill, and also killed Tyson Stengel the week before. Keziah Pickett the week before. It makes no sense to me. But guaranteed this will happen. And I just feel Nick Newman's so good.
What would the alternative be for you? Or is that something we wait for tomorrow for selection?
Well, I mean, if it was me picking the team, we're going to talk about him soon. Marchbank wouldn't be there.
Okay.
And go smaller and go quicker.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I've seen this movie before. I'm an old man.
Okay. Well, Newman gets a 7.5. I don't know who's going to get better than that this week, but we'll see.
Very high.
Yeah. Ollie Hollands. How did we see Ollie's game? He ran a lot.
After that? What?
I said he ran a lot.
I mean, on the left wing, I'm renaming the left flank now. The left flank is Zumba flank.
Mm-hmm.
If you play left side of the football club for Carlton in the way they've played the last 5 weeks, basically it's like sending your nana to Zumba. That's what it is. You're going to run a lot and not much is going to happen. Very interesting this week that after he had success against Ed Langdon, they'd switch him back to this role. And we actually saw, you'll see Blake Acres' heat map. They just ploughed that left-hand side and it was really defensive and it allowed Sydney the option of opening up the corridor, where against Melbourne, it didn't. It's really interesting. We went back to this really safe play. And you look here, pressure acts are great. But again, meters gained for a winger, probably top 3 of the stats are how does he get us from item A to item B? And it didn't work. And I watched Ollie Hollands' game. I love him. He's my boy. But for me, we're doing a disservice to him, but we're also doing a disservice to the system as well. It doesn't make sense to me because we saw last week Acres can play this role. And see what I said about Nick Newman versus Cincotta. They have the AFL experience to go, right, I am playing a role that is shit. It is an absolute waste of my time being a professional athlete playing this role, but I'm going to make the best of it, right? And they do. Ollie Hollands, if he plays this role, is never going to get more than 150 metres gained and any score involvements because simply it is a mature position. Look at James Jordan. Look at young wingers, Errol Goulden. They play him on the attacking flank with limited defensive responsibility. Then they learn the game. At the moment here, all he's learning to do is run, and get ragdolled around, right? And I don't like it, Terry. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't like it. It's a disservice to him. You put Camporelli here next year, don't draft him, is my point. If you get the Camporellis here, both of them are incredibly offensive players. Don't draft him if this is what you're going to do to him. Like, this is Blake Acres' wing. He needs to go on the right.
Interesting. Do you think that has something to do with... Do you think that this contributes to the drop in confidence at times?
Massively. Massively. Like, you look at him. Everyone criticised him last week. Go and watch this week's game. Everyone I've seen, whichever YouTuber or podcast, has all said, where's the dare? Where's the drive? This time last week, people were panning him for getting caught by Ed Langdon, of all people. He took the game on, though. That's what we need. We need someone to go, right, okay, let's get the game going. And I fear it's going to come to a stage where you watch Paddy Dow, and I watched Paddy Dow against St Kilda, and you can see the Carlton effect on him, right? You can see the Carlton effect on him, that instinct to take the game on has been coached out of him, and he's trying to relearn instinct.
Yeah.
I fear that you may coach it out of him. And that's why I'm glad Binns has stayed in the VFL, because that's Binns' game as well. You put Binns in this position, we've only just begun.
Interesting. So that's a 4 for Ollie Hollands. As we move on to Patrick Cripps, a big schlong in the middle of the ground, if you will. How'd you view his game? I mean, he's part of a midfield that got shown up, let's be fair.
It was tough for him. I mean, you look at Cripps here, and if there was ever a stat for everything I tried to do, I did. He did. He tried to do everything. And it's really interesting because if you watch the midfield, simply what's happened is teams have worked out how to beat us in the midfield. And no one wants to talk about this. Cripps is adding these score involvements. He's bringing the clearance game. He's bringing the pressure acts. He's doing pretty much more than usual, really. And it's not happening. It's not happening. Yeah. And we'll talk about it on the Monday show because I've got some great numbers for you. But Cripps will look back at the first 4 games of this year and go, fuck, if we can go back to that, that would be brilliant. Because if we go back to that, that suits me perfectly because all you need me to do is remove the ball. Now they're expecting him to remove the ball and dominate because we've gone real back to stoppage. And I fear them days are behind Cripper. in my honesty, because no one can play that brand of football for 30 games a year. And he ain't getting any younger. He's been doing it on his own. But this was a game here where I think people will criticise him and maybe say he should have tried or maybe done more. But as far as I can see, I saw a man here who stood up to their best and did it amiably. And he is what he is, Cripps. He's a beast, and he proved it.
I've watched enough of Patrick Cripps and Carlton to know that when he is rushing his disposals, we're in trouble. When he's getting it on getting the ball in the boot and just surging the ball forward all the time, and when he's taking on man on the mark to try and wriggle around and kick goal of the year, you know we're in trouble, and he's trying to lift the team. So yeah, but he was all right. You know, so
just an average mark for a guy that's scary when you've got blues in the midfield. We're looking at 8s.
Yeah.
And that just shows you how tough it was for him.
Yeah. So he gets a 6.5 for his game. As we go to the other wing or back pocket, halfback, Blake Acres. He just finds a way to be everywhere. What did you call him last week? He's like COVID. He's everywhere.
He is. He's COVID, like Joe Main.
Like a rash.
He look, I mean, you can see there, look, starting point, the right wing.
Yeah.
Right, which, I mean, at Sydney, wings aren't real wings, to be fair. But, I mean, he started there. And then you can see we did this very interesting thing. And this is the I know we're in trouble when I see everyone flood the left-hand side. And you can see instinctively we did it. And Blake Acres, I saw Tom Morris steal my quote in a podcast last week where he said if you did the Ireland versus Australia, this guy would be the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure I said that on the ratings last week, but don't matter.
Good evening to you, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey!
But I mean, he does what he's got to do. And you can see here, look, these are really good, right? Look, 458, his marks, he presents incredibly well. It's an understated part of his game that he is willing to come off his man and drop deep when Carlton gets stagnant. He's a really interesting character. I'm a big fan of what Blake Acres brings to this game. And again, look, just well-rounded, isn't it? It's just well-rounded. It's an if you could bottle this guy's effort and give it to 22 people, you'd win a flag.
There was something really interesting that I discovered about Blake Acres last week. So I did an interview with Cooper Scoops, and he was talking about Blake Acres. He was talking about St Kilda and the way that they were using him early days in St Kilda, a little bit behind the ball, a little bit ahead of the ball, Freo. It's where it wasn't working either way, so he went on the wing. And it's funny that we now have reaped the benefits of all of that experience for him. So obviously he was playing a lot of footy at St Kilda without dominating, probably no different to Ollie Hollands at times. And so he kept getting moved around. And he's just such a well-rounded player. He can really play anywhere on the field.
Sometimes got to drop your ego. And I mean, the stories of Fremantle are well heard. That basically he was told, "You ain't ever playing for this team unless you learn to play wing."
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty degrading. I mean, just imagine being a footballer and being told, basically, we got you here for banter. If you want to play, learn the wing.
Yeah.
And to play like he does, selflessly, with pride, you can see this means something to him. And yeah, an incredible talent. And again, like I say, that right wing's his wing because he's one of the few players who's smart enough to get there and come back.
Yeah. It's a good point. So it's a 6.5 for Blake Acres. We move on to Corey Durdin. It's just not happening for him, is it? It's just not.
It's interesting as well because Carlton pressed the button and played him in the midfield in the fourth quarter because it was obvious that playing 4 tall backs, playing your big boys in the midfield, you'd lack a point of difference. Now, speed is the word of the year, right? But I want to reiterate, and I'll reiterate it more on the Monday show when we talk about it. that under this game plan, speed is the most pointless thing because Voss is literally getting them to play that contested, slow, methodical brand, right? So you've only got to look at when Dow played for us last year. If you have a line breaker, they're not quick enough to keep up with him, so it comes back with interest when it's turned over. Really interesting, though, with Corey Durdin at the moment because you can see that we've moved this guy around so much, he doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know if he's a forward, if he's a midfielder, if he's a winger, if he's there doing hit. Like, at the moment, I don't think he knows. And this is a concern because I'm pretty sure if we had fit players, this is where I might allow injuries. He's probably not doing it because at the moment, I worry when I watch him because you can see the confidence fading away. And there's a lot of players in 2018 that if you go back, 2017, fantastic. Some players keep getting battered, keep getting destroyed. Confidence naturally drains. And it's now a point, in my opinion, I love Corey Durdin. I'm a big fan, and I think he will make it. Stop playing him, please.
Yeah. Listen, it's tough. It's just not working for him at the moment. He's not able to impact the way he wants. It's interesting because he's got a bit of leg speed about him. You can see him in contests throw his body around and apply himself really well. I thought he set the tone relatively, early in the piece with his pressure, but it just falls away. And maybe this is one of those situations where, you don't have an alternative right now other than him to play in that role. I mean, is this a Binns role?
I mean, I said it last week. I think Binns, when Cottrell went out, is the perfect way. You see how Akers plays?
Yeah.
That they actually play him as a deep winger, which allows the half forward to come back. And you can see they tried to manufacture it this week with Ollie and Akers. I think that's a natural role for Jackson Binns because if you watch him in the VFL, his natural start is probably 20 metres further forward than a winger. And then he pulls up the ground to be the second kick out of defence. So it makes sense. But like when I'm talking about Corey Durdin, I think he will make it. I think he's got the talent. But there comes a point here. I mean, when your heat map looks how someone in Alabama describes the weird like white lights they saw that took Mama, right? I mean, that looks like a UFO fucking sighting drawing, Terry. Doesn't it? If we went to a farm in Alabama and they said their cousin got abducted, that's what they draw.
That's what they would look like. Poor guy. He's just got to keep at it. This is an interesting part for him. He's played almost... Has he played 50 yet?
Yeah, and I would say this would be well in number one of his worst games for us.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. So he's at a really interesting point because you've got to keep at it. You can't afford to slow down. He's got to keep at it. He's played 43 games, so he's had a bit of experience, and it's got to turn eventually for him if he just keeps at it. He's got to find his way through it. So he gets a two.
He's also the proud honour now of the lowest ever recorded.
Is that right? We love you, dudes.
I love you, dudes, as well. But this is again what I say. You've got to give 75% on the players this week.
Of course.
25, though. You've got to protect these players. And are we protecting Corey Durdin by moving him halfway up the ground? Probably not.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. Let's move on. We're going to talk about Elijah, another one of the few shining lights on the day. I didn't count, but I felt like he kicked more on his left foot than his right foot in this game, which I thought was fascinating.
He's got some incredible talent here, and you watch Elijah play. And one thing that I really, really hone in on players, is how do they act when the chips are down? And what I really liked about Elijah is it never crossed his mind to take the piss. It never crossed his mind to go safe. He was always trying to make something happen. And that shows a man that's got real confidence in what he's doing. And again, look, 15.1 kilometers playing at half forward and then pinch hitting in. This is a really interesting one because I'd love Voss to go back to the first 4 rounds where there was no Sam Walsh and we're trying to manufacture that out of 4 or 5 players. And I
Yeah.
feel like we've got a bit stagnant in that. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think we're just learning lessons on the fly. And Elijah's one of the lessons that I think is punching us in the face. Play him in and around the ball now. Get him involved because he makes things happen. 3 score involvements, 370 metres gained. The score launch, this was an important one for a team that has become really stoppage and clearance based. Our score launches from these things is shooting down every week. And this was good to see. Someone who was willing to, when you're about 55 out, get the ball on your boot, get it deep while everyone's set up. And he's willing to do that. I like Elijah's game, and he's really, really growing. And it's great to see, right? It's great to see him because I loved him in the draft year. And it's good to see him getting that kudos and that respect because he's an incredibly talented footballer. And I love seeing him play.
Isn't it interesting to watch players that have come from outside and to see before they get accustomed to the system? Like, he always looks for the option through the corridor. He always looks to take the game on. He's got a bit of dare. He's got plenty of skill, and he's got a tank. He's got some nice attributes.
He's got it all. He's a point of difference as well. You know what's really nice is there's a point of difference. You see it. You see it when he's got the ball, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does work, but I think at times it's very easy to be critical of players getting caught or doing something exciting. Yeah. And sometimes you see the product of that on game. I like the fact this guy is A1. This guy is like, you know what? Fuck calm. Fuck safe. I'm doing my job. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to do it again. And he was the one who I think this could have been a 10 had Voss. I understand why Voss brought McKay back and Curnow back. I really understood it. I understood it because we were getting hemorrhaged in the air, which isn't a surprise. But this guy here would have enjoyed it, would have thrived if McKay and Curnow were in the forward because he was at the times kicking Kennedy and TDK.
It's an interesting question. Is this a guy you play on a wing? Or do you want him in and around the action?
In and around the action, total different player to Oliver. Yeah. And I mean, there's a reason that I call the left wing. It's the death of the career. So he's going to do exactly what Ollie did. He's maybe going to be a bit braver with the ball, but the only place I'd change him is you maybe give him Cotter's position. But I like what they're doing. I like the fact that he's got Cunner's role in Voss's system. I think he's better than Cunner's, a lot better. I really like him being in and under, and I'd like Vossi to trust him with that position a bit more. Like, I'd like to see him shoot up to 15 centre bounces attended, something like that. Give him a real big role because I think him and Chera and Walsh, when they are fit, they'll thrive together a little bit.
Yeah. So we get to 7. Then we move over to Matt Owies. This is an interesting heat map for him. Haven't seen it look like this too often.
Yeah, well, this is reflection here of, you know, what the easiest thing to say is Vossi doesn't change anything in game, right? Yeah. He does. The problem is I think sometimes it's the safe options. And this was an interesting one. Always, I hold this as one that I wish I could speak to Vossi and go, explain to me why you moved Owies, Curnow and McKay when the score was 12 points difference. Because to me, if I was thinking, the only way I win a game is getting one of these guys firing. Owies, you know, he took his goal. It's an opportunist goal. So you need him forward. Curnow and Harry, you know, they only need a moment. And this is what we saw. But again, what I've got to give Owies some credit for is he took the one goal. When he went deeper, he started to bring the pressure axe. He was willing when he was actually moved to half forward, and they moved Akers to half back on the left-hand side, and they kind of manufactured that wing position with, incidentally, Kemp. That's why Kemp had 15 kilometres. They moved him up to almost like a defensive wing. It was a very bizarre formation shift. But he did his role there, and that's all you can expect. I like Owies. For me, Owies has probably cemented another contract when you look at the small forwards at the moment because he's leading the way. And it's a shame he got moved. In my opinion, it's a shame he got moved.
Yeah. He's kicked 15 goals for the year. He gets a 6 for the game. As we move on to Harry. 4 marks on the lead, 2 tackles inside 50, kicked a goal. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. How do you kick that goal from outside 50 and miss the one from the top of the goal square? Like, make it make sense to me.
Everyone's going to mention the miss.
Of course.
Right, and deplorable miss. And you know what, Petra, I'm glad you're in the comments because spot on. Negativity is bad. Criticism's good. So,
yeah,
like blowing it out of the water. And let's be critical. He can't miss them. But he knows he can't miss them. And did 6 points cost us the game? When you lose by 50, Jesus. No. In short, it was a tough one. Interesting that he got moved back because I felt when he was leading, and this is the problem, whenever you see the tackles inside 50, and if this guy's got an asterisk with it, game over.
Yeah.
Game over.
So true.
Thanks for coming.
So true.
And this is the one here. Now, the Charlie moving down the back, I really enjoyed. If you told me Charlie moves down the back, this guy stays forward, I liked it because of that stat there. Marc's on the lead. He really gave their backline a bit of handful. He was moving high up the ground. And look at them marks here, right? See that blue dot to the furthest right of your screen, which is just in the past level with the goal line? That's usually where he starts his run. And then where that little orange circle is inside 50, that's where he's leading to. That really helped the Blues out. Then he came down into this defensive wing role. And we haven't seen this defensive wing role for a long time from him, for about 3 or 4 games. And this is the safe call. And then that heat map there, I could now look at and go, okay, cool. We've lost this game. Like, as soon as I see that heat map, I know that means we've lost the game because it was an interesting thing. But you know what? He's going to get punished for that 6 points. But I mean, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. The most important thing with Harry is it doesn't, he works his way through it. Flashback.
Costly miss.
I mean, to suggest that, I disagree with what I'm reading in the comments. I mean, the miss changed the momentum of the game. They kicked the next 8 goals, Jason. You're right. But I don't think they kicked the next 8 goals of Swans because Harry missed from the top of the goal square. So I don't know if that is the reason for that happening. We were up, had momentum. It's a bad miss. But, yeah, the main thing is that Harry doesn't fall into a lack of confidence. He tried to kick the ball a little too hard, ultimately.
Well, the miss was the first quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Owies kicked a goal, 45 seconds after it, from memory? About 1:30 after?
Owies goal, yeah, correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to Google what momentum is? I know I'm English, so I know my dictionary, but do you want to Google what momentum is? Yeah, I mean, come on. I'm 38 years old. I don't have to explain basic English words to my children. They're 9 and 8. Yeah. So did it have if you think that game there has cost us a game by 50, Jesus Christ. Honestly, let's wrap up. I'll tell you what it did cost, though. It probably cost his confidence. And I would say, for me, what I like to see, what I would have loved to have seen, is Vossi take him at halftime and go, right, we need you, mate.
Yeah.
We need you. So you're going to play full forward. Charlie's going to come and help the back line. But you're going to be there in the goal square and you're going to fucking pay us back. You're going to pay us back, okay? I'm going to give you the chance of redemption. And I felt moving him out the back half of the ground, that's how he works. I've spoke to Harry. He's a guy that takes it personally when he misses.
Yeah.
And he'll want to fucking pay you back. I felt like we should have given him the option. And it's a tough one because, shoulda, coulda. I mean,
shoulda, coulda, woulda,
people in the comments saying it wouldn't have got out to 50. Is a 30-point loss in AFL since as the rules changed? Do you get bonus points for being close?
Yeah.
Like, my argument is we need to change our mentality as a football club. I would have rather have gone into the second half and gone, right, if we lose by 150, we're going on our sword, playing aggressive football in a style that wins. From the second half, and I agree with Debbie's point, I feel like Voss at times tried to protect the lead and tried to protect the percentage. And the problem is that ain't going to win the game. And the way you get confidence is you win games and you start monopolizing against it. The last 5 games, we've played a team that is an average of 4th on the ladder, right? That's how they get confidence, by stacking up against these sides. And I feel that we really hung them out to dry there.
Yeah.
And Hunter, spot on, you can't win every game. You can't win every game. It's impossible. No. But give yourself the best chance. And that's what I think that's what happened to Harry last year. You know, truth be told, why was Harry's kicking shit last year? Because we played him back half of the wing as the exit ball. We didn't give him a chance to re-find his form. His first 4 games, what was it? No stoppage, quick football, playing to his marking on the lead. And he was arguably the best player in the league for the first 4 games.
Yeah. Let's move on because we're halfway-ish and we've got to get through till 7 p.m. So Harry gets a 6.5. We're going to move on to Koning. Was he injured? Did he get hurt? I saw comments throughout the game. Forget about today. I saw rumors today that he's hurt his hamstring and he turned and touched his hammy. He could have just scratched the back of his leg. He had no force to him whatsoever in this game.
Yeah. Big footy. Big foot. I mean, yeah, you know what? Look, I like to treat my football club like I treat my kids. All right. And that is, if I start giving excuses for your poor performance, you're never going to improve.
Of course.
I like to give reasons. So for me, while he's out there, regardless if he's taking a knock or not, he's playing football. He's playing football. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's told me he's fit enough and he's okay enough. This is a really weird one because Carlton deployed him forward of the ball. And it's interesting. This is the heat map we saw from Harry McKay in the first 4, where he'd fly up as the second kick because Harry likes that big, long bomb into the goal square, right? And it was interesting here because I was watching this game and on the rewatch, because my little lad wanted to help do the stats for this game. So thanks to D, we had to watch this game a fucking another time. So cheers, boy. Love you. But one thing that I noticed, I was just thinking, you've got Harry there, you've got TDK and you've got Pittonet. Why don't you sacrifice one of them down the back? And I felt this was TDK's game to go a little bit down the back.
Yeah.
Or be that exit out there. And it was interesting. We played him forward. And honestly, I don't think Dane Ramp has probably had such an easy job.
Yeah.
Because he looked lost. He really did. And he didn't understand the leading patterns. So you could see third forward usually. When he had to play 1 or 2, he didn't quite understand it. And this was a poor game from him. But I'll forgive him. I won't hate him for it.
It was a poor game from him, but he's had a really good year. That's why he was just so low on output in this game. I wasn't sure what had happened. I mean, when Harry was going down back, when Charlie was down back, and then Harry was sort of that exit kick out of D50, I found myself thinking, like, why isn't that Koning? Like, where is he? What's happened? So I don't know. There are some online rumors swirling. I don't want to get too caught up in it because it could be nothing. I think Tom Morris tweeted that he turned while at training today and touched his hamstring. But I don't want to sort of add fuel to the flames because that's a really touchy subject and we can't afford to lose many more. So a 3.5 for TDK. So we move on to Charlie. How'd you watch Charlie's game?
Had to work a bit hard. It would have been a really interesting battle in playing down the back. I thought his first half, it showed signs that it could be a really entertaining battle because there was some really good battles going on that forward line, especially when he had that moment with Nick Blakey where Blakey tried to peel off. And not many people will talk about this. Charlie put the shepherd in, and it allowed Williams to do what he did and deliver that ball inside 50. I thought that was going to be a really good battle. Again, with Charlie, worked quite hard on the score involvements and obviously the 8 marks up and around the ground. As you can see, this is probably the most diverse Charlie Curnow heat map. Remember 3 weeks ago, people were saying Charlie didn't do anything. He paid you back this week, didn't he? He had to go fucking everywhere. But this is an interesting one. The one thing that kills me with Charlie, and again, see what I said about Ollie Hollands, don't take away his natural flair. But you know what? When he brings the ball inside 50, you don't have to do Hollywood kicks.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Charlie needs to mature a little bit in his terms of knowing when to be X Factor. And when he learns that, he will be absolutely impeccable. Felt some of them kicks were very Charlie infused, where if he had his time again, took a bit of time, could have been different. But hey ho, that's who he is.
Do you think he's adjusting to his newfound role within the group as part of the leadership group, or do you think it's not even a point to bring up the fact that he's in the leadership group? Like, does it add nothing to his game preparation for a game, or do you think he has to adjust a little bit to it?
I mean, there'll be an adjustment period, but I mean, you're not there to learn, are you? I would say at the age of Charlie Curnow, he should understand what it takes and how to be as a professional footballer. So I don't think he needs help doing that in that terms. But he's
just more from the point of knowing just that understanding of, I mean, he can turn a game on its head, and I think just learning how to control that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd imagine it's a learning process, but I mean, for me, Charlie's there to kick goals and change the game, isn't he? And if he watches that tape, my one criticism is control the moment a little bit better. Control the moment. Like them outside of the boots. Like you got Jason there saying, look at the top teams. Charlie would be number one key forward for tackles inside 50 and pressure acts. Like if we're going to drop like things, can we make sure it's in the realms of intelligence and factual? Like there's a lot of misinformation going around, but he's better tackling than all of Sydney's key forwards.
I think Jason's having a bit of a bubble at the moment, so we'll just let him.
I love criticism. Criticism makes you better.
Yeah,
makes you better, but just don't make stuff up. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say here and say 1965 Charlie invented the cold and flu cure. That's how good he is. I mean, like, show a bit of respect for people that have spent their entire lives to get into the AFL system. There's a lot of things you can hang him for. Just hung him. Them entries inside 50 honestly brought me back to the years of Aaron Mullet kicking inside 50.
Wow. Well, it's a 7 for Charlie as we move on to Marc Pittonet. Oh, I thought this heat map would be a little bit more spread out. I thought I'd noticed him a little bit more around the ground.
This was an interesting one. I really thought, like I said, Weering went off. They wanted to add someone. They had a plan. 4 tolls in the back line.
Yeah.
Saw him the last couple of weeks. They trialed him, haven't they, behind the ball. And it's gone pretty well as that backstop. I was surprised they didn't just plonk him centre half back and just said, right, look, this is where the ball's coming in. Just make yourself a nuisance. Just be a problem. And they kind of left him. I felt disrespect. I wouldn't say disrespect, but it felt like disrespect of just carried on using as you do. The 11 clearances is a really good start. Thank you, Christian, for bringing it up to me. It's the number one in there, but this is, again, the bit that scares me about it. Them clearances were then just punts forward and no one chasing. And it was just, in the end, kind of playing for territory's sake. The method to win at Sydney is territory. So the teams that have won over the last 10 years, you look at their territory stats, insane. Territory's great if you pressure the territory. Carlton didn't, so he was doing the right thing. It was almost like the midfield and the forwards hadn't read the memo. But this is an interesting one from Pittonet because this is a Pittonet game, and you really did see here when TDK and Pittonet are playing as a duo and they're playing individually, you saw them being quite exposed individually. So it was an interesting one. Voss might be able to explain it, but I didn't quite. I thought we underutilized him.
Yeah. I mean, he's getting... I don't quite believe where we're at with him. He's all of a sudden gone from a dot, and I mean like a dot, to 15 to 20 times a game. Like he's getting so much more of the ball around the ground. I don't actually care so much for the fact that he gets the ball 15 to 18 times a game. I care more about what he actually does around stoppage. I do understand the importance for him to develop a little bit more of a rounded game. I still think he's in career best form. I still think he's playing good footy. Ultimately, that midfield got dominated, particularly in that third, and they all take a bit of blame for that.
Yeah, so they shouldn't. I mean, this is something that Voss has. I mean, Voss can't hide. I don't think at the moment, in the terms of he's been there long enough to know what he's doing, right? So, and to know the capabilities of the players. This is another one again where I felt Voss got it wrong. It felt like he was really relying on the game plan to work, and then shift the magnets. And I felt like he shifted the safe magnets. It would have been entertaining to see if they used him as try and take away that exit ball, try and take that Logan McDonald run from centre half forward, like they did against, like they tried to do with Jeremy Cameron and players like that. Could they have done that? It didn't quite happen. And I felt like, yeah, they were relying on these clearances. He did his part. That there says to me, I would guarantee pre-game clearance territory, win game.
Yeah.
And he did it. And that exposes the game plan didn't work for me.
So that's a 6 for Marc Pittonet. We move over to Sam Walsh. Sheesh. It's a lot of yellow. He's covered the ground pretty well. 25 pressure acts. How did you assess his game, guys?
A lot of pressure around the ball. He was running around a lot. And this is a really interesting one because you look at how Chad Warner is used and they play him out in that loose, and he really exposed Carlton because once he gets a running start, it's game over. And
game over. Yep.
It's some of the players, man. Like I've never seen someone sidestep so much since the great Benji Marshall playing for West Tigers. Just a little sidestep and the C's part. This is another thing, and Scotty Down Under, great pickup. He was tagged for the majority of the game. And this is where you're looking for, okay, let's shift him. Let's shift him. Let's move him around. Will you bring James Jordan with us? And that didn't happen. And in the end, he played this defensive role off halfback in the right. And it's a weird one. He did probably the best he could do without any tagging help. It was a weird one because I thought he threatened at the start to take the game apart.
Yeah. The goal that he took early in that game, that was the beginning of the Swans wrestling it back. And I thought it was a critical moment. There were just far too many critical moments going the other way. That's one of the few times I've seen a tagger have that level of success on him.
Well, you saw Horse. He shifted it really quickly. He shifted James Jordan and Rowe Bottom after the first quarter to their respective players, and both of them did an incredible job. And we didn't. And I don't know whether that's arrogance, whether that's a rigid game plan, but I felt like you've got to change something in the source, especially when over the last 4 weeks, source has been number one priority. And ultimately a 6 just above average for him.
Pretty much. So we get to 6. I'm going to pause us for a minute and we're going to play the little video from Horizon Finance Group. In the meantime, Pommy, I can't see it here. Maybe you can, but 37, 39, 40. I don't have them here, so we'll just get them ready.
I'm Nick Horsburgh. I'm the director of Horizon Finance Group. I've been in the automotive industry about 20 years now and brokering for the last 7 years. I started Horizon Finance Group about 3 years ago. I've got a passion for really helping people. So if they've got a bad credit rating and have been previously knocked back, what I really enjoy about the role is being able to give them guidance, put them in a position where they've got better financial practices and get them their target of getting a loan for them. That's really rewarding for me.
It's the table, isn't it? It's the table for me.
Mate. Brown mahogany.
Wow. Wait, is that a different type of red to the other reds, or am I tripping?
It's just because you've seen quite a few of them, mate.
Yeah. Let's talk about Caleb Marchbank. The selection piqued your interest.
It did indeed. So, when you watch teams like play Sydney, they look at Amati, they look at McDonald, they look at them players, and they go, right, okay, we've got to go quite tall. And traditionally, it doesn't work because they work very unusually. So they're not high marking inside 50 forwards. They play quite deep. They look to bring the ball to ground. And then you look at the makeup of their forward line, it's very obvious of why they do that. Right? It's very obvious because it plays into their strengths. And it's interesting because I watched Marchbank's game in the VFL and they were playing Casey, and they're not a very good side forward. And you saw in the fourth quarter when there was a bit of pressure, it fell apart. And look at these numbers: 87 meters gained, 3 turnovers, 2 of which directly resulting in shots on goal, the other one being a goal. All of his one-on-ones lost. He looked a little bit behind the 8 ball. And this is not a criticism to Marchbank, but they were trying to fit 3 players to play the same role in one role. And it seems to work, McGovern and Kemp. Now, I understand Marchbank, it works in finals. I think it's a horses for courses type thing. And I don't feel SCG away from home, it was the right call. And ultimately, the plan to beat Marchbank's been the same since he was drafted. Bring the ball to ground, game over. And that is how they play. That's how they play. Bring the ball to ground, game over. And it was heavily exposed.
Yeah. Is he worth persisting with?
Yeah.
I'm in the Marchbank camp. I think he's worth persisting with.
I think he's a very good player.
He needs a month of footy under him before we start seeing him play with confidence.
I'm in my honest opinion, I think Kemp is ahead of him
right now
by a long way.
Do you think it's one or the other? They don't coexist?
I think if you told me the break glass in case of emergency was Marchbank and over Young, I'd be like, okay. I think they should be fighting for the positions, but for me, I think it's 3 players of the same ilk has to play. I think Marchbank, McGovern. I mean, McGovern, Kemp, Weering, perfect. He's perfect as a trio. Is perfect as a trio, but as the chat's saying, I also think availability is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Marchie's mate.
Like Whitney's saying, Kemp makes bad decisions, but they are the proper decisions. They are bold decisions that get you out of the shit. Marchbank, too many handballs to his left, too many handballs to the right. He's naturally an aggressive player, and I feel the game has gone past him, with all due respect.
Interesting. Well, a 3.5 for Caleb. So we move on to George Hewett against his old club. How did you watch his game?
This was a really interesting one when I was watching him play, because this was like really a case of someone's coming off the chain and they gave Kennedy the hardest job on the ground to be the direct matchup with Mr. Chad Warner. And I was like, switch it over. Switch it over. Give Hewett him. Let Kennedy move a little bit. Because, and he kind of, when he's not doing a defined role for me, it's like he's just there. And I mean that with respect. It felt like he was just there. And for me, for Hewett to play, if you're playing Hewett, Kennedy, Cripps in the same midfield, you've got to give me 3 specific jobs they're doing. And I felt like Hewett was just there.
Do you think, I mean, I can't help but feel like this will just reignite the conversation about those 3 playing in the same side and why it's important that Chera is in the side. But you can't not play both Hewett and Kennedy when Chera's unavailable.
Well, I mean, you move them. I mean, Kennedy made a name for himself with all them boys in there and played half forward, slotted down at half back, and we used him as a bits and pieces player. I just thought this week against a side that run and stuns through the middle.
Yeah.
I felt playing all three of them just over and over again with the least rotations that we've had this year. I just felt like sometimes you get what you get, and we asked for it. That's why I'm not particularly angry about this, because this happens, and it felt like we were either too scared to risk a big loss or too naive that our game plan is the best in the league against the best in the league. So interesting one. Yeah, they'll probably get criticised, Terry. Hewett and Kennedy, people will probably say trade them, they're slow, they're shit. It's probably going to happen. I mean, do you know what I mean? All over Twitter, we're not allowed to play two ruckmen when some people were saying the two ruck system was the best thing they've seen since fucking slice bread. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to get criticised.
Yeah. Well, it's a 5 for George. As we move on, we go to Orazio Fantasia. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say.
This is a really interesting one because look at his heat map and then remember Durdin's. It's almost identical apart from Durdin's look like, an Alabama farmer's describing a UFO. But that's the only difference. This guy just was there a bit more. So it's really obvious that Voss, one credit I'll give him, he's seen the emptiness. That there has to be a guy who plays half forward that connects with the midfield, right? And it's usually this guy. And then this week it was him and Durdin. But let's be honest, I mean this with love. See what I said about Marchbank. Sometimes you can be away from the game so fucking long that the game passes you by. And I'm failing to see it. I appreciate Voss trusts him. They've worked together. But I watched him, and then I watched the VFO, and I watched Billy Wilson, and I know he plays a different position, but then I watched Binsey, and I'll be like, as pants as Binsey would probably be playing in the forward pocket, you tell me that you can't switch it up a little bit. I was thinking you had Bins here instead of him. Matt Kennedy plays half forward as that marking target, and take the responsibility off Bins and say, just get yourself free, bro. Get yourself free. Have a bit of fun. And it's tough because I like Fantasia. I think on his day, he's incredibly good. But let's be honest, at the moment, if you told me he was a first-year player, I'd believe you. And he's a 30-year-old man that should be driving the standards. And I don't think he is.
Yeah. I mean, Durdin's a 40-odd gamer. Fantasia's in the side to, I do understand the need to wait for him to get some continuity under him because he's been out for so long. Isn't it so wild that we've gotten him fit? That was the biggest question mark over him. If you can get him fit, you've got a handy player. He just hasn't gelled with the team yet. I don't really know what kind of player he is. What I thought he was and what I'm watching him do right now is so far apart.
You look at the Sandful, but you look at the Sandful Fantasia forward pocket. So like where that orange bit is in the forward line, that was his whole fucking heat map in Sandful. Yep. So that makes sense. But I just feel this isn't Fantasia's role. And if, the argument people say Bins can't come in because we're past giving debuts and we're past what ifs. I agree. We are at the stage now. You come for this football club. We are top 4. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, injuries, you can't be top 4. Oh, fucking, I stubbed my toe. I can't climb the stairs. Like, we are got to be aiming top 4 bare minimum. So for me, when you walk over that white line, you are good enough. It's now. The time is now, not 10 years now. Yep. And I'm looking at Fantasia and I'm saying, you're telling me, would I rather Bins have 11 touches, go at 40% and do not very much? Or would I want Fantasia? I want Bins because at least he's getting the exposure. At least there's scope to grow. I'm expecting Fantasia to have Martin type impact.
Yep.
Like it's in, I've got the mark, I've hit a kick. And you know what worried me? The handoff for the goal. Because the real Fantasia is like Robbie Gray, selfish, all about himself. He wants the headlines. Go back and watch Essendon best games of him or Port. That's where he's like, nah, today's my day. That worried me. He handed that off because I'm like, the Fantasia we know we want. It's that guy who's I am. It's me. I'm the main man. And that worried me a little bit because I'm like, I want to see the selfishness.
So he gets a 3.5.
He's one of the few players I'll give a pass for being selfish because he's been there and done it.
That's what he's here to do. So a 3.5. I've got a few more left. I'm going to wrap it up. Zack Williams deployed in a much different role than what we are used to seeing him. How did you find the experiment?
Half forward. It was interesting because this was he was soon moved down to the back half of the ground.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because Zack Williams, again, if you're going to play him at half forward for me, I know people are raving about it. I didn't really like it. Yeah, he had that one moment. Brilliant. But that role, whoever we've played there, has to be gift-fed touches. Zack Williams, for me, if he's playing anywhere, he's playing the Chera role. Get him in and around the ball. Because see Boydie. I want the ball in this guy's hands because although he's not as efficient as Boyd, he makes something happen. I'll give him. It's the aggressive play. And then we moved him down back. And I don't think he's a halfback. And I feel like you kind of seen, like, in my opinion, GWS played him as a midfielder. He got his best. That's where he's got to play. We've got too many halfbacks who can do that role. I'd rather see Boyd have 10 more touches a week and play this guy in and around it because I'll give him this. He makes something happen. And I don't care about his disposal efficiency. Players that do what he does aren't efficient.
Well, he's one of the few guys in the team that actually can break a line and run and carry. That's when I think of what is Zack Williams, it's run and carry and take a dangerous kick.
When Saad was injured, the two players I was kind of excited to see was Williams and Cincotta.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, they're going to get the opportunity now where defense is less important. It's taking the game on. Both of you have got something different. And it's weird that we play him in the back pocket. Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Why? Like the back pocket is a shit kicker's job.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say he's tough. And, you know, it's the little things he does that annoy me. Like, he's given away, 5 50s in 2 weeks when he's played? And
Zach?
I don't know if that's petulance or unlucky, but it seems petulant.
It was a sloppy one that he gave away. He was 100% at fault. Tried to hold up the play. I mean, he's a senior player. He's not he's a very senior player.
He's got it in him, though. That I like the fact we moved him forward to the ball to get him on the ball because, yes, brilliant. But we'll talk about it in a half hour. I just feel take a chance, take a risk. Take a risk with Z-Will because I don't think he's going to be there forever. So, you know what? Fuck what Sauce said. Fuck what Teague said. He was a midfielder at GWS. He played he got them to a grand final. You've lost Chera. It's a huge hole in that midfield. Like right now, we're seeing Kennedy and Hewett have to just combine to do his defense. Get him in the guts. Get him taking the game on.
Well, he gets a 5.5, Zachy. As we go to the sub, Jack Carroll. Thought he was... am I reaching here? I thought he was okay for what he, when he was on.
I mean, it was interesting.
It's a nothingness, but,
You know what was interesting to me? And Ari makes a good comment. Newman's seniority gives him the Sard role. And it's funny. It feels like the roles at this football club are defined for the length of time you've played for us.
Yes.
As opposed to, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Patrick Cripps. If there is someone in the reserves getting better contested ball than you, you get moved. Like, I don't care. I don't care for that. Because you know what? Someone said to me a long time ago on this forum, Pom, what would you rather? You don't win anything without loyalty. And I was like, yeah, you do. You win fucking success. That is winning. What are you on about? Success is winning.
Yeah.
I looked at Carroll, and obviously Voss didn't have a plan. I'm going to lose a key back in 20 minutes of the game, and I've got to bring on a midfielder. But you look at it and you think, okay, cool, we've got an extra point of difference. Thank you very much, Mrs. Pom. We've got a different point of difference. This is going to be exciting. And I looked at Carroll and I was like, you're basically a young version of George Hewett, aren't you? Like, I watched him and I was like, what the fuck have we done to you? Like, you've got 50 minutes of football you weren't expecting. Take the game on. And I know he's Cripps' best mate, but learn off Cripps. Be Cripps. Make something happen. And you know what? There's a great scene in the fourth quarter. Chad Warner goes, do. He parts the sea. Cripps is busting his ass to chase him. But God bless Cripps, he ain't got the pace. It ain't happening. And the midfielders stood watching him, and this is where I question, because I'm expecting a standard. I'm not being critical, but the standard should be, just because Cripps isn't on today, our fucking duty is to do it for Cripps. And I felt this was the game. They've been battered 50-50. Even though they won, it was tight. And listen to Sydney after the game. It was hard yakka to beat Carlton in the midfield. This is where Carroll needs to come in and go, right, I'm fresh, I'm younger. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's change games.
Fair. He didn't bring a spark. It's all he needed to do.
Mate, his first quarter, I said it on the live. If you told me he just played the VFL before this game, I'd believe you. He looked devoid of energy, but then again, 22 players looked tired.
The whole group had it. The whole group did not have the same energy about them.
Like, we keep one goal in the fourth, and I'm singing The Great Escape. Where's that fucking energy, boys? Come on, give me something, man.
So the score for Carroll is scaled to a 4.
You know what? Just quickly, Terry, as well, because we had our break. You missed this guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, in between. Sorry. How's the shade? Matt Kennedy.
Deployed as a tagger, 7 tackles, best on our side, 22 pressure acts, 4 score involvements, 1 goal. Understated this role. So this is the role I want to tell you about. Marchbank, McGovern, Kemp almost playing 1 role between 3. Hewett and Kennedy almost playing 1 role between 2. Why? This is where that flat-footedness comes from, because you looked at their midfield, row bottom right, he's going to be the pain in the ass. He's going to stop anyone getting clean ball. He did incredible. Then you watch James Jordan. Okay, he's just going to be a dickhead and follow Walsh into the toilets. Chad Warner. Right, he's going to be the man. They want to get the ball to Chad Warner. He's got license to roam. You look at it, there was 4 defined roles from their midfielders. Then you watched ours, and it's like Hewett's job was, if Kennedy didn't tackle, it's Hewett's job. So he was basically the backup. And then it felt like Cripps' job was find Walsh. And if Walsh wasn't there, who finds Cripps?
Yeah.
Who finds him? Who helps him? And this is it for me, most underutilized player. What my criticism with Newman is, my criticism falls on Voss. This guy is in career best form at the moment. You've put him in some of the worst players on the ground, and he keeps performing. Kennedy versus Chad Warner, most ridiculous matchup I've ever seen in my life. And somehow the guy managed to tackle the guy 6 times.
Imagine that. So a 6 for Kennedy. Let's move along. We want to wrap this up. We have about 10 minutes to go until the BA show. Wow. That is, mate, that's gross.
Yeah, and basically Walsh, Akers, Cripps, McKay, Kemp, well, not Kemp, we'll forgive Kemp. They should be yellows. It's just because they've done more to outweigh their opposition in some of the key metrics. But look at all the reds. And we always say, what's the rule? Every red, we get a blue.
Yep.
And when your highest green score is 7.5.
That's a 10-goal loss indeed.
That's poor. That's poor. And you look at the midfield. Every midfield that wins or even loses has to have a blue, because it means someone's the primary ball user. Someone's trying to do it. This was as bad a game as Carlton have played, and it's systematic. systematically poor, structurally poor, and output energy poor. And sometimes you need to be smacked on your ass to get up and do wonderful things.
Mate, it's all there now. There's no hiding. It's a beatdown. It's a beatdown. Everything's revealed. You've stripped the paint off the walls. It's all there. You know, it's like a bottoming out type performance. So weird that so many clubs had them. So many of the teams towards the top had them in this round. But we don't really give a shit about the rest. It's really about us. We got to get back on track. It's the lack of collective desire, which is the most concerning part to me. The intent.
Mate.
I mean, if we don't have it, we're average. We're an average team if we don't come with that full application on the defensive end around the ground.
Amen. And
you know,
I mean, we've got previous Adelaide shock loss, dreadful performance from the team. Voss went full stoppage in clearance, right? Then he doubled down after the next disappointing loss. This is probably the worst loss. This should be this. We should see another culture shift based on what we've seen from Voss. And if Voss wants a clear understanding that please ignore the pundits, go back to the first four, it protects the players. This was probably it, because you've played the best and they exploited it.
Yeah.
I mean, 7.5 player of the game. Come on.
Player of the game with a 7.5, Nick Newman, thanks to Horizon Finance Group. Yeah, that says a bit. The leader of the medal, that's the average. Wow. So this was 8.8 last week. Walsh's average.
Down.
Wow. 7.9. And he's leading? That's the highest average rating?
Yeah, I mean, what we're looking here at the end of the season, anything above 7.5 will be good, because so if you watch the Champs data ratings, the most ridiculous rating in the world, because that rating the other day got released and fucking Marc Pittonet is the second best ruck in the league, made me chuckle. That's against them in a period of 2 years. So if they've been pants for a year and a half, you're good. So it's you're looking at consistency. This model bases you on consistency. And I mean, he's been consistent. I mean, to lead it, I mean, to have a 6 and be tagged all game is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Solid. And then the riser of the week. So this is based off their projected score for the game and the one who had the highest score pursuant to their projection. Yeah.
So slim pickings, really, because everyone was below their projection pretty much. Nick Newman gets punished in this because it's already learned Nick Newman is a god. So it doesn't really give Nick Newman any love. But Kemp, I thought he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant all game. And
they won't drop him,
rising up.
They won't drop him, will they? I said they won't drop Kemp, will they?
No, like I said, $1 million. It's Cincotta. $1 million. I've seen it'll be Cincotta Forsard. Newman slots back. Kemp will probably stay. I'll probably riot though. If Thursday Terry's doing his fucking show and goes, teams are in, Marchbank in, Kemp's out there, Sard's in, I'll probably riot. You'll probably see return of 2019 POM.
There's only a couple of people who haven't yet lost it. You are one of them.
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Fucking on the precipice chat there. It's a fine fucking line, my pedigree chums.
Oh, maybe they just have to get to all of us before they turn it around. I was very disappointed, but I'm not yet throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Not yet.
Peter V, good mate, would be having a bit of a laugh in the Blue Abroad chat, but I've been having some good banter. So I'm starting the first stage of madness where I start taking the piss.
Yeah.
So he's been privy to me saying that it's ever since Australia moved from the gold standard, Carlton have been shit. So that's the first stage. You know, I'm starting to lose it when I'm masking it with bad humor.
Well, ladies and gents, That's the ratings. Thank goodness that's over, because that was dreadful. That replay was dreadful. That performance was dreadful. And I just hope, I thought those days were behind us. And I hope it doesn't become 2 in a row. That's kind of all we've got.
Hey, look, end of the day, we got each other.
That's true. We do have each other. We do. All right. So see you in 5 minutes for the Blue Abroad show, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Pommy. Thank you to Horizon Finance Group.